Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Faith Matters. Today we're joined once again with our humble guest, Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Last time we were discussing a very interesting topic, the concept of Imamah, and you did quite eloquently explain to us of its linguistical meaning from the dictionary, and also some input of the concept in terms of Imamah from the Holy Quran. But let's dive deeper into the subject and kind of look at what are the proofs that we need to use in order to establish and understand the concept of Imamah.
إن شاء الله. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Basically, the Imamah is an important issue, and it's, inshallah, we'll discuss today about the Imamah being part of Usul al-Din, the principle of the faith, of the religion, as one of the main Islamic beliefs. So that's, inshallah, will be our topic for this episode. But however, if we look at this point now in terms of the two main proofs, in terms of the aql and naql, the rational proof and the scriptural and textual proof, for us to be able to prove for us initially with the aql, with the power of reason and intellect, that can we have an imam or not? Is there an imam or not? Infallible imam or not? In order to be able to refute other religions and even other Islamic sects who don't believe in the imamah and the system of infallibility and so forth. So initially, to start with, I would like to say that the scholars of the Shia Imamiyah, they've agreed upon the fact that the imamah initially, which is the leadership of mankind, it's not like the marja' or the faqih or the jurisprudence. It's to do with the imamah, which means the vicegerent of the prophet, the person who carries the knowledge and the message of that prophet, is actually one of the main principles of the Islamic beliefs. It's part of the Usul al-Din. Now, the Usul al-Din, the basis of the religion are five. Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then al-Adl, the justice of Allah. We have the Nubuwwah, the prophethood of all the prophets from Adam to Muhammad, peace be upon them all. And we have the Imamah, the leadership of mankind after the prophet. And we have the Ma'ad, or Mu'ad, Yawm al-Qiyamah, which is the judgment day, the resurrection day. So these are the main beliefs. We have every Muslim must believe in these five.
These are the core principles of the religion.
Yes. And then we have the Furu' al-Din, the roots, such as pray, Hajj, Zakat, Khums, and so forth. But these are the main ones. And if somebody lacks in believing in one of these usul, then he's in trouble in terms of faith and aqidah. So let's initially define the rational proofs with regard to the imamah, which is part of the usul al-Din. Let me start with this, the first fact about the ad-dalil al-aqli, as it's mentioned in the theology books. Initially, there is a term, or there's a basis known as qa'idat al-lutf, the basis of kindness. Now, this base was derived from the verse which says, Allahu latifun bi'ibadih. Allah is kind, is gracious unto his slaves, unto his creation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is latif, He is kind to His creation, He won't leave them without somebody who would guide them. I mean, He would order them to pray, to do such and such, but He needs to send somebody in order to guide those people. You know, I'll just give an example. If somebody a company makes something, they makes cars or systems, they issue a catalog with that, or use a manual with that system. Now, they have to have also some kind of customer support and some kind of after-sales service.
Or possibly an engineer that can come in.
Yeah. So if we as human beings, we can comprehend and accept that fact that we have to have something to go back with any issue with regard to manufacturing issue or business issue, even social issues, we have to have somebody we can go back and consult and get the advice. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most supreme, creator, and He's the wise, and He's the master of everything. Now He has to do this, of course. According to the aql, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he should send the guiders with the scriptures, with the books, with the holy books and so forth, and to guide the humanity. So that's the qa'adat al-lutf to start with. Otherwise, just imagine that if you were being to be sent on a planet, there's no oxygen, there's no any habitat, any things to live in, then
it wouldn't be fair.
Just doom and destroy it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wise, is alim, is qadir. He knows what He's doing. So of course He sends, He creates people and He sends to them prophets and guidance and so forth.
It's interesting what you're saying, because the thing is, it's very true. Rationally, every human being does need to form a connection with some element of a leader. I mean, like for example, if you take the governments that we have now, they all elect a leader. But obviously, there's a difference between the leaders that people elect and the leaders that God elects. Do you think, for example, how like the Ahlul Sunnah Jamaat historically has been displayed, that they elected a leader from themselves was a correct thing? And if not, what was the problems in doing something like that in comparison to God picking an imam?
As I've just mentioned a few minutes ago, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wise, He is the most knowledgeable, and He knows who to elect or choose or appoint. I mean, the same question would be with regard to the prophets. Why Allah chose this prophet, particularly? Why did He choose Musa? Why Isa? Why Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We could have chosen our own prophets. Why not? We could have found, for example, Salman al-Farsi, for example, and we say, oh, he's our prophet, and that's it. Things which relate to the divinely issues, something to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chooses, He selects. That's what's called Mustafa. Mustafa means istafa, is to extract and select the purest out of the purest. So we have, maybe thousands of pious people, mu'mineen, great people like Salman, Abu Dhar, Ammar, Miqdad, and so forth from the Sahaba. But also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects the best, the very best, which is Ali alayhi salam, to be the leader. Otherwise, we could have, chose our own leader. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wise. He knows who to choose for the leadership of the mankind, not just a group of people, and just to deal with their fiqh and social issues. It's all beyond that and broader than that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wise. He knows who to choose. And that's why we don't choose our own prophets. We refer back to the scriptures, to the holy books, to the narrations that yes, this person was a prophet, so we believe in that prophet. Musa was prophet. We just submit to the Quran, for example, that Musa is our prophet. Isa is also a prophet. So we respect and we submit to them as prophets, and we have to believe in them as well. That's part of the usul al-din and nubuwwah, to believe in all the prophets. So of course, the appointment comes from Allah when it's to do with the divinely religion and revelations. Otherwise, when it comes to the issue of fiqh and usul and so forth, if we have ulama and maraja, that's fine. But the difference is huge from the imamah and the wilaya, the supreme wilaya, and to do with issues of fiqh and usul and so forth.
Obviously, the easiest probably way to describe it, as you're mentioning, is when it's to do with Allah's system, Allah has the right to choose. When it's to do with the people's smaller issues, then obviously the most knowledgeable that's there can take care of these issues, inshallah. So are there any other types of proof? You've mentioned obviously the rational proof. Is there any other types of proof that we can look at to kind of understand and prove imamah?
Of course, to do with the rational proof, we also have some other proofs within the rational boundary. We also have the fact that those guiders and of course the prophets and the vicegerents, they should be chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, that's finished. But why we insist on Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim? Because they are the closest to the Prophet in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the piousness, in terms of the taqwa, wara', all these attributes. They are the closest, and they are being witnessed by even the enemies that they are the best. That Ali, Hassan, and Hussein salamullah alayhim, they are the best. And the people, even the enemies, gave their confessions that they are the best amongst the companions. So why should we ignore them and go and choose somebody who was before Islam, he was a mushrik, he was kafir, he used to drink alcohol and so forth, and to choose him as a khalifa, as a leader for the Muslims. Sometimes I choose him as a king, as a state of rule. That's different. But to title him as the Khalifa al-Muslimin, the Caliph of the Muslims, that's a thing we have to ponder and stop, and we have to go back to the hadith and the narrations of the Prophet and the Holy Quran, and to see, is that person suitable to be a Khalifa?
Does he
or
have
not?
the requirements? From the
Ahsantum,
Prophet?
yes, the requirements. In addition to this aqli proof, dalil aqli, the Imam also must be infallible, as the Prophet is infallible, because he is the person who continues the journey of the Prophet's message, Prophet's mission. So he must also be knowledgeable and be infallible, so when he delivers specific information to the people, he won't do any mistake. Because what we saw, for example, for the past history, those caliphs who came to the power, for example, we saw them, for example, well, Muawiyah, now known to be the caliph of the Muslims. Muawiyah came and caused a huge fitna within the Muslim nation. And he went to fight Ali alayhi salam in Battle of Siffin. And then he went to fight Al-Hassan, his son, just to take the khilafah for himself. So what kind of Khalifa is this, of Muslims is this? Afterwards, when he passed away, he appointed his son Yazid, who is very well known about his corruption, socially. I mean, he's very well known about his drinks and so forth. He came and he killed Al-Hussein alayhi salam on day of Ashura for the same reason, that he wanted to be the supreme leader and take over the Khilafah. So what kind of Khilafah is this, when they end up of killing the saints, of killing the grandsons of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
The people that are sent to protect the message.
Yeah. They're supposed to at least respected those grandsons in the progeny of the Prophet, at least we say, I don't know if their shari'ah to their leadership, but at least should have respected the status of the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, instead of fighting them and beheading them.
It's interesting because you mentioned, obviously there's very clear the depiction of the akhlaq of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and obviously the akhlaq of Muawiyah. You can see obviously a major difference. One is obviously chasing after the world, while the other is trying to protect the entire Muslim ummah. But you mentioned the word infallible, and I think slightly, not to sidetrack too much, but we believe as Shias, I would undoubtedly say that the Prophet ﷺ is infallible, and that this isma, infallibility, passes on to the Imamah alayhimus salam. But would you say that the wider Muslim community, for example, the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at, have that same belief? Do they believe that the Prophet is infallible the same way that we believe the Prophet is infallible? Or is there a difference of opinion there? Because I mean, I know there's like two verses, one that says that the Prophet is a man like you, and then at the same time there's another verse that says, you know, that we have purified the Prophet and his family with a thorough purification. So as a Shia, how do we kind of look at these verses and understand what Sunnis believe in regards to the infallibility as well?
With regard to the Shia belief, we believe that all the prophets, not only the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his progeny, they are all infallibles from sins, from making mistakes, anything that turns people away from them. Because the duty of the Prophet or the Messenger or the Imam is to guide people and track them. So if he commits sins, na'udhu billah, or makes mistakes and he forgets, for example, then how could we trust this person and take the divine religion from him? If he does mistakes, how could I trust him? So we believe that they must be all infallibles from any sins, and that is, of course, recorded and proved with all the in our theology books. However, the non-Shia, they have also their own opinion about the isma, the infallibility. They say that, well, he's infallible when he is revealed, you know, in the time of revelation.
His revelation, yeah.
In that period. Afterwards, well, he could make a mistake, or, you know, na'udhu even sin in some cases for some of them. And I had a teacher in college. he used to say that he wasn't a Shia. He said that the Prophet was stopped when he mentioned Surah Al-Tahrim, لِمَا تُحَرِّمُ أَحَلَ اللَّهِ لَكَ. The Prophet, Allah stopped him as if he did mistake. That the Prophet, and the meaning was that the Prophet made a hukum, which is halal for eating, the honey. He made it haram for himself. So Allah stopped him as if he did a mistake, as if he did, na'udhu billah, sin of making halal haram. So that's not accepted at all, because there's an ayah, and I've mentioned this to I had an argument with that teacher. I said to him that there's a hadith, there's a verse in the Quran which says, وَمَا يَنطُقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. He doesn't speak of his own desire. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. He is revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a wahy, there's a revelation. So anything he does, he speaks, he gets up, he walks. They're all by revelation, by the permission and the pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything he does or he says, it's all agreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's like a link and a chain of revelation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In deeds, in anything he does. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So that's the difference between us and the other school of thought. But that's because in the Umayyad time, Umayyad period, the Umayyad period, they start to make, the hadith against, some of those who were paid to write a hadith against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just to break the status of the Aqidah. And they weren't somehow successful, but alhamdulillah, with the efforts of Ahlul Bayt, they tried to combat all these.
Would you say that the infallibility from the proven sense that we have as Shia and the infallibility of the Imamah, are they different at all, or are they exactly the same in principle? Like, there's no difference between the Isma of the Prophet and the Isma of, for example, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. They're both infallible in the same context, in the same means and manner.
Well, the fact is, as I've mentioned previously, that the Imams inherit the Isma, the knowledge, the infallibility, everything. But the difference is the personality. So the Prophet ﷺ is the best ever Allah created in his personality. Otherwise, they share the knowledge, they share the Isma together. So the difference is, as I said, the personality of this Prophet is better than Ali alayhi salam. Ali is better than Al-Hussein, and so forth. It's the personality himself. Otherwise, they share. It's all shared. Allah gave it to the Prophet, and he passes it to the next Imam after Imam. As the hadith says, Imamun ba'da Imam. So they inherit the ilm, the knowledge, the Isma, and so forth. So it's all inherited. It's just the personality of that person, of that Imam, makes him better than the other one.
Just an interesting question. Sorry, just before you carry on into the Naqli part. With the ayah of Tathir, it's something that I've always wondered about. But it says that for example, in that regard to that event, Allah purified all of them. And you're saying, for example, there's a hadith that's saying the prophets and the Imams inherit after the next Imam. So when the Prophet was the Prophet, and Imam Ali was there, and Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam was there, and obviously Fatima Zahra, was only the Prophet infallible? Or was they all infallible, yet only the Prophet had the knowledge that Allah gave to him and that wasn't shared with the others? I mean, how did that work at that time? Does that make sense? For example, at the event of Kisa, when Allah says, I've purified all of you, was it just a means that they all had Isma, but only the Prophet had the ilm? Or was it an issue that the Prophet had the ilm and the Isma and they didn't? I mean, how do we understand what actually happened at Hadith Kisa when Allah is talking about purifying the Ahlul Bayt?
You see, in the Shia, I believe we have narrations which says that Allah created the Holy Prophet first. The first ever creation was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as I've mentioned last episode, that the Prophet said to Jabir that the first thing Allah created was your Prophet's light, because we believe that they are anwar, lights. So Allah created the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then Ahlul Bayt salamullah one after another. So they were anwar. We read this in the Ziyarat al-Jami'ah. خلقكم الله أنوارا. Allah created you as anwar, lights. فجعلكم بعرشه محدقين. So he made you around his throne, his arsh, محدقين, surrounding his arsh. So they were created as anwar, as nur. And then Allah gave them the duty of coming to this dunya and offering the test, because they also been tested, and to test the humanity as well with Ahlul Bayt. So are you going to be with Ahlul Bayt or against? Na'udhu billah. So Hadith Kisa is just to confirm the fact that they are Ahlul Bayt, they are purified, but they were before and before, as according to narrations.
From the beginning,
from
infallible.
thousands of years, of course. They were infallible before, thousands of years ago. It's just that their duty, the role was to come to this earth, to this dunya, and offer this the service of guiding humanity. And as we read in the Ziyarat al-Arba'in, part of the ziyarah, the Imam says, or in the ziyarah says, وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتُهُ فِيك. Imam Hussein sacrifices his heart blood, the blood of his heart, which is the most
Prized possession.
prized possession. Ahsantum, yeah. If you give away, then you're dead. That's it. وبذل مهجته فيك ليستنقذ عبادك من الضلالة من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة, to save your nation from the jahala, from ignorant, and from going astray. To wander and look for the right path, and you never. So the Imam came to save the humanity from this of going deviation. That's the duty of the Imam, is to save the humanity from corruption and deviation. And of course, if he wasn't ma'soom, or if he was a sinful person, na'udhu billah, and then he becomes the Imam, then that's against the Quran, because the Quran we read last time, the verse which says to Ibrahim, لا ينال عهد الظالم, the zalims, the oppressors, won't be able to be the leaders of the Ummah, because only the sinless person can lead the Ummah. As the prophets, they were sinless. They were all purified and infallibles. So that's how Allah wanted. It's not something with us. We cannot play with Allah's laws and legislations. It's just all to do with Allah. This is His wisdom, that His leaders, His messengers to be purified, in order to deliver a purified message, a clear message, without any mistakes or any doubts. With regard to also the Imamah or the Khilafah as well, as a manifestation for the Imamah, that the Khalifa must be most knowledgeable amongst the people. So who was the most knowledgeable? Well, the testimonies and confessions of the Shia and the non-Shia, especially the Ahl al-Amma, al-Jama'ah, they say that Ali was, the best. And many books like, Abi' al-Mawadda and other books mention that the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أَقْضَاكُمْ عَلِي, أَعْلَمُكُمْ عَلِي, and so forth. All these hadith for the greatness of Ali alayhi salam mentioned in their books. But, however, you would find that they would forward and prioritize others. Let me just bring an interesting history event about the knowledge of the Khalifa. Once Umar was asked by by a person, about the meaning of وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبَّا. Now, فاكهة means fruits, so the fruits that we eat. But what is the meaning of Abba? It's not Ab doesn't mean father. It's Ab, means something else. So he asked Umar about the meaning of Ab. What's Ab means? Now, Umar responded that, I'll say it in Arabic first. He said, نُهِينَا عَنَ التَّعَمُّقِ وَالتَّكَلُّفِ. He responded, and he was supposed to be the Khalifa of the Muslims, the leader, the most knowledgeable. He said, we have been refrained from going into the deep meanings and the hard work of defining the meanings of these, the verses and the phrases.
Very political answer.
Well, if you are a Khalifa of the Muslims, you should be the most knowledgeable. Sometimes you're politically, as a leader, as a king, fine. You're a king, fine. But if you call yourself Khalifa Muslim, Amir al-Mu'mineen, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to be in this position of being able to respond to people's religious questions.
Shukran jazeelan, Shaykhna. I hope you've at home enjoyed this interesting discussion. I surely have learned a lot in regards to the concept of aqd dalil and how that is used as a means and how we derive the concept of Imamah from it. Inshallah, join us on future episodes where we'll be further discussing the concept of Imamah with Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.